Hi everyone, welcome back to The Support Bear, a podcast made to spread awareness about different mental health issues. Today we are going to be talking about perfectionism and the fear of failure.
Perfectionism is a term often defined as the feeling of needing to appear to be perfect or to believe that it is possible to achieve absolute perfection. A person with perfectionism has a personality that strives for flawlessness, which is accomplished by fixing on imperfections. Although it can be often seen as a positive trait, it can often affect mental health, such as development of depression, anxiety, OCD, low self-esteem, as well as suicidal thoughts or tendencies.
Perfectionism can be seen in three main categories. First, there is socially prescribed perfectionism. It is when the individual feels immense pressure to do their best, but others surrounding them will still reject them. They perceive themselves to have high external standards, which can come from their family, workplace, or even society as a whole in general. This can all lead to anxiety and low confidence.
Next, there is other orientated perfectionism. As individuals hold others than themselves to have high standards and expectations of them, this can lead them to thinking that others have critical and judgmental behavior towards them.
Finally, there is self-oriented perfectionism. These individuals are organized and conscientious. They purposely set high expectations for themselves in their lives and careers, and they're able to go after and achieve those goals. They are associated with adaptive traits and have a greater sense of productivity and success.
There is also neurotic perfectionism. This is a serious illness that is based upon perfectionism, where individuals set unrealistic goals and then feel dissatisfied when they are unable to achieve them. Neurotic perfectionism can lead to other serious mental illnesses, such as depression and anxiety, as they will keep setting higher and unachievable goals for themselves that they will never be able to fulfill. This constant cycle of perfectionism can affect their self-esteem greatly.
There has been an increasing trend in the perfectionistic tendencies among recent generations of young people. One of the key reasons of this is social media. Social media can be seen to pressure teenagers to be the perfect version of themselves in comparison to other people.
Perfectionism can be highly damaging as it gives the person the constant pressure to meet their high expectations that they have set for themselves, which can eventually result in alienation and social isolation.
Recently, perfectionism has been increasingly considered to be a risk factor for suicide, as they can tend to be highly self-critical when their efforts are unable to meet their expectations. In addition to this, the idea that they had the tendency to present a perfect public image of themselves decreases the likelihood of seeking help.
Other than suicide, it can also affect mental health in other ways, such as the development of an eating disorder, as they can have the desire to have the socially desired body. It was found that those with higher levels of perfectionism had a harder time in recovering from these eating disorders.
These examples help express the seriousness of this personality trait and what can happen if the person starts to become obsessed with the idea of perfection.
Perfectionism can be difficult to overcome, but it's not impossible. There are a few steps that can help overcome this little by little.
Noting down all the advantages and disadvantages of being a perfectionist. And whenever you want to be a perfectionist in a specific task again, look back at the disadvantages section and remind yourself that it is okay.
Set realistic goals for yourself. Setting unrealistic goals will keep you from achieving and pursuing what you really desire. This way, by setting achievable goals, you can achieve significant results and be satisfied with it.
Setting a timer or a limit to a specific task. This can avoid spending an excessive amount of time trying to perform a task perfectly. By creating a realistic time limit and sticking to it, it can avoid the urge to be a perfectionist. Avoid procrastination. Concentrate on the task at hand instead of thinking what the end product will be like. A good way to do this is by breaking down a task into smaller and more manageable parts, so you can complete it in one step at a time. This can also help avoid overworking.
Lastly, remember that mistakes are not bad. It is okay to make some mistakes here and there. No one can be perfect all the time.
There is also professional help that you can get if your signs of perfectionism get extreme and can affect your day-to-day activities. Therapy is a common one that most individuals would go to. They can go to cognitive behavioral therapy. This type of therapy helps show the individual that perfection is not necessary in everything they do. It teaches the individual that errors are acceptable in life, and it doesn't stop them from pursuing their dreams.
There is also hypnotherapy, and it helps manage the mindset of all or nothing mentality that most perfectionists have. This therapy uses hypnosis to help the patient overcome their mentality about perfectionism. Lastly, there is also family system therapy. This is where the therapist tries to figure out how perfectionism comes up in their family unit and how it affects the subject as an individual.
Now, we will move on to our new segment that we have recently come up with. We will share a few anonymous stories and thoughts on perfectionism that we have received.
Our first message of today's episode says, I always feel like I should never do something if I couldn't do it perfectly first time, which is dumb, clearly, but blame Asian parents and former gifted kids syndrome. It led me to self-sabotage by procrastinating to ridiculous extremes in case of academics, or exaggerating my disadvantages in the case of everything else, so I would have an excuse to not be perfect. Advice might be a bit cliche, but something that sometimes helps when I'm freaking out about failing is controlling my internal narration. Something like, so as it turns out, 3 drops of oil is not enough to stop the post stickers from pot sticking. Who would have known? Turns the experience from something happening to me, the disaster, to me, the book character who I can laugh at. This could be nice. This could be a nice method to stop over obsessing with perfectionism in the short run, but we have to at some point realize that it is okay to have flaws and learn to accept them.
Now another message. I always thought that everything, all my assignments and work, had to be perfect in order to be the best version of myself. I would stay up hours and hours and even pull all-nighters just to complete a stupid worksheet, but the teacher just ends up not even checking it. That's when I realized that constantly working and working won't benefit me. I was nowhere near being the best version of myself. It just gave me constant anxiety and stress for no reason. Thank you for the message. To help avoid overworking, just like what we previously said, setting a timer or a limit to a specific task can help avoid spending an excess amount of time trying to perform the task.
Another message by someone says, reoccurring thoughts that I will fail a test or an exam always comes to me the night before, and I try to calm myself by just sleeping. This is actually a very helpful advice that could be applied to everyone, because sleeping is a very helpful and important coping mechanism.
And finally, our last message. I keep on perfecting things even though I know I won't get any good results. I personally think that we can all get good results, although it might not seem like you're going anywhere at this moment. In a few years' time, you will be able to see just how much progress you have made and how your hard work has paid off. All you have to do is trust the progress and trust in yourself.
Now we'll be answering some questions. First question is, how do I know if I show signs of perfectionism? So, different people can be perfectionists in different areas in life. If you find yourself constantly wanting to achieve perfection in something, you might be a perfectionist. Some clear signs of perfectionism include you can't start a task until you are sure you can execute it flawlessly. This is a common type of perfectionism. You can take much longer than others to complete the same task. You see the end product as the most crucial part of the task. You can also think specific task is not complete unless it's like 100% perfect.
Is perfectionism good or bad? Healthy perfectionism can help individuals do their best and help them achieve their goals. But when it becomes over-obsessive, it can become unhealthy, and then it starts to become a problem. Constantly trying to be perfect can cause serious mental health issues, which can affect the quality of an individual's life, such as stress, anxiety, and low self-esteem.
So our last question for today's episode is, how do perfectionists deal with failure? So some perfectionists can deal with their own failure by looking at the advantages about a task that they perform and minimizing the disadvantages. This helps them focus on what they did good rather than focusing on what they did bad about a task. They also use strategies like using humor to cope with their mistakes. This is a common mechanism used by a lot of individuals. And at the end of the day, they don't feel so bad as they did before.
And that's it for today's episode. Thank you for listening. See you next